For Social Security, I know that the Social Security Administration released a statement earlier in the week saying that they were promising that senior citizens were no longer going to have to pay taxes on Social Security. There were some reductions in taxes, but there was not an elimination in federal taxes for Social Security. There was not an elimination of federal taxes. What happened is that now there's a special senior bonus deduction that you can take in addition to your regular federal tax deduction for people who are 65 and up. Again, only 65 and up, that's $6,000 per recipient, whether you're single or you're married. So that's $6,000. So I want to make sure you know so people don't go around and mess up your taxes for next year. The other thing is that senior bonus deduction, it expires in 2028. So it's not going to be something that's permanent, that sticks around. So if that's something that you want to continue, we're going to have to advocate for it. So that's the first part. Switching over, before I switch over to Social Security, I also want to mention, to Medicaid, I want to mention one more thing with Social Security. Earlier in the year, AARP was really fighting for customer service issues with the Social Security Administration offices. We were hearing from a lot of people who were trying to get through to the Social Security administrators. They couldn't get through on the telephones. They were told to go into the offices. They got to the offices. They were told that if they didn't have an appointment, that they had to call to schedule an appointment. They got back on the phone and they still couldn't get through. I'm one of those people. My father died last year in May. I tried to reach the Social Security Administration for 9 months to let them know to stop paying into his checking account. And they told me to schedule an appointment, couldn't get through. I went down to the offices and I couldn't get through. So I actually witnessed firsthand people who had that same issue. So AARP fought to make sure that one, people weren't in a revolving maze to nowhere. And we continue to fight to get more positions in those offices. Unfortunately, a lot of the positions we fought for over the last 3 years have been cut back. So that's one issue that we'll continue to fight for. And we encourage you, as you meet with your members of Congress, as you speak with local officials, as people start coming to see you on the campaign trail and they come to shake your hands at churches and other places, to really hold them accountable and have conversations to say, thank you for your leadership, but what are you going to do to make sure that we can actually get through to some of these when we need people the most? Switching over to Medicaid. So Medicaid had some changes in the Big Beautiful Bill. What's the impact for South Carolina? Well, now one of the key impacts will be that work requirements will be in place for anyone who's aged 19 to 64. These work requirements will begin in 2026. However, there's some different nuances in the bill as to when states can start to implement those work requirements. With those work requirements, it also too removes exemptions for people who are veterans who previously had exemptions, for people who are homeless, and for people who are former foster youth as well. And so more to come. One of the concerns is looking into the state receives a hefty chunk of funding from federal Medicaid dollars. One of the things we frequently heard from state legislators was a hesitance to expand Medicaid at the state level, not knowing what could potentially happen or any cuts that could happen to Medicaid. I won't go into Medicaid expansion and those issues deeply tonight. However, some of those concerns still exist. One of the key things that's going to be a concern is that hospitals in the state receive a Medicaid provider tax. That has been eliminated. And so hospitals have said if that was eliminated, there was huge concern about rural hospitals being shut down. I came from a very rural.
Okay. So what is unclaimed property? It's cash. It could also be securities like shares of stock can be unclaimed property. And it's money that's held by someone other than the owner with no owner-initiated activity for a certain period of time. So what does that mean? Well, we could be talking about a bank account, maybe that you opened for your grandchild, a savings account, and they didn't know about it. And 5, 10 years later, they haven't done anything to take active steps, either go online and look at it or do withdrawals. That becomes a dormant account. It gets sent to the state treasurer's office for that person. We also have uncashed checks. So a business hires you or another company to do work for them. It could be a payroll check. It could be like a landscaping company and they paid a business and that business or that individual doesn't cash their check, that's gonna become unclaimed property after a year, if it's a payroll check. So check with us. Think about old college jobs you had, or part-time jobs that maybe you didn't like it, you stayed about 3 months and you're like, nope, I'm moving on. They didn't know where to find you, they couldn't send you the last check, it ends up with us. We also could end up with things like insurance proceeds. Someone passes away, they had a life insurance policy. No one notified them that the person passed away because you didn't know mom had a life insurance policy. Well, the life insurance company didn't know who the beneficiary was, so they didn't know who to send it to. That comes to the state treasurer's office. We also had things like utility deposits. You had an apartment in college. You had to pay City of Columbia or City of Orangeburg or Santee a water deposit. When you left, they didn't know what your forwarding address was. You're owed some money. We have a lot of money from Bell South, old Bell South refunds. There's $54.86. It's a standard one every time it comes up. And then forgotten stock accounts as well. Grandma bought little junior Disney stock. That was just her idea. She thought it was cute. She liked Mickey Mouse on the stock certificate. So when he was born, she decided every year on his birthday, I'm gonna give him 1 share of Walt Disney stock. Well, she never told little junior where it was held. So guess what? When Grandma died, what happened to the stock? Came to the state treasurer's office. So we've got lots of things like that that you might not think about, but they're actually at our office. So why do we do this, and why do we have money coming to the state treasurer's office? Well, there's a law for unclaimed property that requires businesses, if they can't locate the owner, they can't just keep it. They have to send it to the state treasurer's office. And it's consumer protection, is to make sure that we've got a central repository for every business to send money to, and for you guys to do a one-stop shop, to look on our website to see if we're holding any money for you. And we do our job at the state treasurer's office. We make sure it's you. We don't want to give it back to just anybody. So we have a little claim form you fill out and send us your ID. We might ask for your social, depending on what it is. And then we cut you a check, as easy as that. So we encourage you to check our website. Last year, we gave back $45 million to people in this state. That's a lot of money. And that comes from people searching our website. It also comes from us looking for you. Treasurer's office is very, very passionate about getting this money back in the hands that it belongs to. So we do a lot of proactive outreach. I've got folks in my office, I think they're kind of akin to skip tracers, but they're going online. We're trying to find where people are today. Where were they 10 years ago? Are they still living? If they're not still living, where did they die? Who was their representative? Did they have an estate? We're doing a lot of digging and research at the treasurer's office to try to get this money back. And all you have to do is just search our website and let us know where you are.
I'm going to just touch on and give y'all a brief overview of the Department of Transportation. Our Department of Transportation, we are responsible for 41,000 miles of state-maintained highways, or state-maintained roads. We're also responsible for 8,400 bridges. And if that sounds like a lot to you, you're right, it is a lot. We have the 4th largest state-maintained highway system in the country, Little South Carolina. We have more roads to maintain than states like New York, California, and Texas. And we're doing that one of the fastest growing states in the country. So, I don't know about y'all, but before I started working at the DOT, when I thought about the DOT, the first people that came to mind were those who work with our maintenance forces. They are the ones who are the first ones on the scene after a tropical storm, during a snowstorm, after a hurricane, and after a flood. They make our roads safe and accessible for all of us. And they especially make our roads safe and accessible for our frontline workers, for our first responders, and our utility company, or our utility linemen. And I don't know about y'all, but I want my roads to be clear so that the minute can come to my house and get my power back on, because my kids can't stand not having any air conditioning, and I can't stand hearing them complain about it. But there are lots of other people working at the Department of Transportation, and we all work together to make our roads safer and to manage them, to successfully manage our roads and bridges. We have a lot of engineers at the Department of Transportation, but we also have a lot of accountants and financial planners. They are managing $1 billion budget a year. We also have an additional
A few years ago, and it's a dilapidated mall. I think there's a lot of trespassing. It's an eyesore. There's graffiti, and quite frankly, it's embarrassing to have in the community. So I'd like to make the announcement tonight that we're filing permits to demolish the mall, and it's happening. And so if everything goes well and we can cut some red tape, I hope that we can have some dozers out on the property late summer or this fall. So the mall is going down. One thing that was really important to the local community and to the state officials was, or at least something I found that's resonated, is we're not asking the state nor the local community to invest any dollars. We're not asking for tax abatement. We're not asking for any state funds. We're doing this all with private money. We have been very fortunate to have the ability to work and create a lot of jobs throughout other foreign countries, different areas of the U.S. The most recent project that I developed was the Two Kings Casino up near Charlotte. They're now in the process of building a $1.2 billion resort, and it's right on Interstate 85. I really enjoyed the presentation from DOT because I, more than anybody, am so happy to see what's going to happen with I-95. Because our project sits on I-95, and not only do we need a safe way to transport passengers, but we anticipate 4 million visits per year to the casino. And I've always said that when I meet with different state leaders and friends in the state, people came to me and they said, you know, what do we ever do one day about the corridor of shame? I said, well, tell me about the corridor of shame. I've heard many leaders mention this, and they were explaining to me about the area of I-95 that's been abandoned. And I thought, you know, I live in Greenville, South Carolina, and they're blessed with a lot of jobs, a lot of industry. And it saddened me to see how an area like this cannot thrive off all the traffic from New York to Miami. Yeah. And if it was good enough for Walt Disney to make a run at it years ago, it's sure good enough for us. So we're super excited about that. It's a passion project for me. This is going to be a fun project because we're going to make it happen. But more importantly, it's going to be fun to do a project in my home state where I'm born and raised. You know, because of the law in South Carolina, ever since video poker was outlawed in 2000, the only gaming in town is the lottery. So we want to bring something a lot more fun, a lot more entertaining, but more importantly, we got to find a way to get 100,000 passersby every day on I-95 to exit and spend some money in Santee. So that's my goal. That's what I'm after. Just a few facts about the casino. We anticipate spending somewhere around $600 million in private money in our phase one. We will ultimately spend probably over $1 billion by the time the hotel is built. A little bit of a misperception that I run into a lot is people say, well, we don't want Las Vegas here in Santee. Well, I don't either. And that's not what we're doing. We want to build a project that fits into the local landscape. I'm not looking to build a 50-story glitzy glamour hotel. We want to build something that looks more like a hunting or fishing lodge, and something that's very high-end, and something that if someone's coming from New York, I want them to stop and spend the night in Santee, then they can go on to Florida. Because the thing that is interesting to me about South Carolina in general, especially along the corridor of shame, is that wherever the person left in New York, there were casinos all around them, and when they end up in Florida, there's 18 casinos down there. So why shouldn't we have one here to allow people to enjoy and for the locals to do? Yeah, that's all I have. I just wanted to introduce myself, and I've just received such a welcome, warm greeting from all type of people I've met here, and I just really appreciate it from coming from Greenville, South Carolina. Thank you.